Well, we're having a good time so far, are we? Say yes? Yeah. Now, I cannot overemphasize to you the value of business growth strategies that you have available to you at your fingertips, online, anywhere in the world. Anytime you need to know something about a subject, it's sort of like, instead of driving off across country with no road map and no road signs, what you do is you say, geez, I need to know about telephone prospecting. I need to know about closing sales. I need to know about setting better priorities. Just click on bang, bang, and there's the course. I've spent years and years and hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars shooting all this stuff and then streamlining it and making it available and then writing the notes and writing the outlines and the bullet points and the exercises, and you have it all available to you at your fingertips. So please take advantage of it. Now, someone was asking me, well, can I train my staff with this? People are doing that all over the place. You know, it's the U.S. military policy. Don't ask, don't tell. The point is that, yes, you have unlimited usage of it. So many companies are training their people on sales. They're doing management seminars. And if you want to train with it, there's instructions, but it's very simple, is download the written materials, which is the outline, the bullet points, and then download the exercises, and then staple them together, and then get your gang together and give each person a set of the paper version, and then start playing the video and watch it. We do it on widescreen in our office. And then we have this, we say, if somebody wants to stop and talk about something that you just heard, they just go like this, and you push pause. And then you discuss it. And the discussion is where the great value of a learning experience comes from. So then they say, anything okay? Click, pause again, it goes on. Somebody says pause. And you might take a whole hour to do a 22-minute session. And at the end, people then write down their answers. How are we going to apply this material immediately? Their action commitment, as you've seen, and then you discuss how we're going to use this in our business. I had a roofer come up to me. He was running a roofing company in a very competitive market. He came up and he said, we bought this. And we used to sell it on video, by the way, 30 videos. The selling program, 30 videos of the management program, 30 videos of the personal development program, time management, and so on. Anyway, he bought it. He paid several $1,000s for it, and they used to play it for his staff. He said he increased his sales by something like 500% in 1 year in a competitive market, just by training his people every day. The most productive single division of Hilton International got this program, and they began training their people on it every Thursday morning. They said the day after the training was the highest sales day of their week. And he said they became the highest grossing division of Hilton International by using this program just once a week, just one training session a week for the sales team. So the reason I'm telling you this with great enthusiasm is don't go home and say, well, I'm going to get to that someday. You know, someday I'm going to get to that. You know, someday I'll. That wonderful place, that fantasy place that people live on most of their lives, someday I'll. You know, someday I'll take a look at those videos. You'll notice at the end of every session, because we can't teach you everything, at the end of every session there's specific recommended lessons for you to take to reinforce what you're doing here. Now, one last point is Americans are very impatient. We've grown up in a generation where everything is instant. There was an article in Reader's Digest magazine a few years ago, and it said the television generation grows up expecting a 30, 60, or 90-minute solution to all the great problems of life. And the most that we'll settle for is a mini-series. You know, a little bit of a couple, 60 to 90 minutes this week, 60 to 90 minutes next week. But then we want all the great problems of life solved, because that's what they do in a television show or in a movie. It starts off, there's all the problems, the solution. At the end, the person wins, and they're successful, and they win their lottery, and they're rich, and they're thin, and they're beautiful. And then they have the makeover programs and the reality programs. And everybody thinks there's some kind of fast, instant way to be successful. Get it out of your head. There's not. You can't be successful at anything quickly, but you can be successful slowly, patiently, deliberately. So people say to me, well, I want to lose weight, so I take a weight loss program. How long do you stay on the weight loss program? A week. It didn't work. So I decided I had gradually got my weight up to, about 196 pounds, you know, and for some reason all my suits were shrinking. You know what I'm talking about? And I finally decided that I had to get this about 15 pounds off. I've now got about 20 pounds off. And so I decided to lose weight, I had to give myself a year. I was going to give myself a year. I was going to change my eating lifestyle for a year. More salads, lighter foods, more water, more exercise. Just deliberate, not try to lose 5 pounds in a week, but lose 1 or 2 ounces a week. 1 or 2 ounces a week is 52 ounces a year. 52 ounces in a year, what's that, 3 or 4 pounds? actually 2 ounces a week, and so on. And what I did is you take the weight off, and you actually reset all of your internal adjusters, and the weight never comes back again. Because now you just naturally eat lighter and eat better. So give yourself, with regard to becoming really, really smart in business, give yourself a year. Say, I'm going to put a year into this. I'm going to work at it a little bit every day. I'm not going to try to go back home and watch 30 programs, I'm going to do one a week. And I'm just going to apply that one a week. And the cumulative effect of this, like a snowball, will be astonishing. It always is astonishing. People are amazed that 1 year from now, you're earning 2 or 3 times as much, and you're doing it as easily as you were blowing your brains out a year ago. Are you with me so far? So therefore, be prepared to get going. Just keep at it a little bit each week. When we say exercise, we don't say go out and exercise 8 hours a day, for heaven's sakes. 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes a day, going for a walk, a little bit of aerobic exercise, eat some salads and rather than cheesecake and things like that. And the cumulative effect over time is extraordinary, but be patient. Expect to put in a lot of work. Okay, you ready to go? Say yes. Yes. Now, this is one of my favorite sessions. This changed my life. When I started off my sales career, when I could no longer get a laboring job like you, what I did was I was given the 3-part sales training program, which is common in 70% of companies in America. Here's your cards, here's your brochures, there's the door. Go out and hang in there. That was the first motivational talk at the end of the month when you haven't sold anything and you're discouraged and in despair and you're starving and you're worrying. They say, hang in there. At the end of the second month, they give you the real motivational program. They look at you very grimly and they say, if you don't sell something pretty soon, we'll have to fire you. And some people go out and make a sale just to spite the bastard, But the fact is that most salespeople have never been trained. And what transformed my life, and I've worked with many of the Fortune 500 companies, is every one of these companies, because the reason they're big is because from the very beginning, like IBM started off and they were a punch card operator, then from the very beginning, they drilled their people in sales techniques. They trained them and trained them and trained them. Xerox came from out of nowhere with a xerography program and built the Xerox Corporation on tremendous sales training. They trained and trained, and they sold tens of billions of dollars. If you're going up against a professional salesperson who's been trained, you haven't got a chance if you haven't been trained as well. And wonderfully enough, all sales skills are learnable. So therefore, you must never let yourself be held back. And this is what changed my life. It was my transition moment, is I found that I could learn how to sell by simply studying what other top salespeople were doing and asking them questions and going to courses. I still remember listening to my first sales audio program. I couldn't believe the techniques and methods that they taught. There was a science to this. Wow. It's like cooking with a recipe in the kitchen. You could cook with a recipe and the dish would taste delicious once you had perfected it. So I went out there and I began to sell, and my sales went up and up and up, and pretty soon they made me a sales mangler. And they said, look, whatever you're smoking, find some other guys and share it with them because it's working for you. So I began to recruit other people, and I taught them what I had learned, and their sales went up and up and up. I had a great experience jumping forward. I was speaking to a large group in Vancouver last fall, and Vancouver is where I was from, and I went to school, high school there. And many years later, I was in Bangkok. And I was living in Bangkok, and this is where my career was starting to take off, and I was getting into sales. And I got a call through the Canadian consulate in Bangkok that someone was trying to get a hold of me. And I went down and I found, and it was a friend of mine from high school who I hadn't seen for years. I've been traveling around the world now for 5 years. I've been gone for a long time. Hadn't seen him for years. He was just a friend of mine. Well, he was in a Bangkok jail. Now, you've heard of Mexican jails? Well, Bangkok jails are a little bit better, but they're still not very nice. And he was in a Bangkok jail, and he was desperate. He was, he'd heard through the grapevine that I was in Bangkok. Could I help him? So I went to the jail, and I went there, and here's the jail, and he's way in the bowels, and he's way back in this little cell, and he's dirty, and he's unkempt, and he's unbathed, and his clothes are ragged, and he's broken. They've stolen all of his stuff, and here he is in jail. And what happened was he had a motorcycle. Somehow he had a motorcycle, which got confiscated, and he had a small amount of grass that he was bringing with him when he was coming into Thailand, and Thailand is illegal. And so he was lecturing to me about how these people don't understand, and it's my first offense and everything else. I said, hey, you're not in America or Canada in this case, where you can get a couple of offenses, you get a slap on the wrist, you're in a real bad place here. If you try to smuggle in dope, then you are in serious trouble. Well, I don't know. Look, I said, look, either you work with me or I'll leave you here. And he said, all right. I said, I'm going to get you a lawyer because I have contacts, and I'll find out exactly what we have to do. Fortunately, Greece works in Thailand. And we'll find out who we have to grease and who we have to pay. And so I got him a lawyer. We pled down. We paid a fine. We greased the proper people, and we got him released. So here he is, skinny, ragged, dirty, poor, no college education. And I said, all right, I'm going to teach you how to sell. And with what I teach you, you'll be able to make some money. So I sat him down and I taught him what I had learned and sent him out into the street to sell, cold calling, knocking on doors, mostly calling on expatriates who were living and working in Bangkok at that time. Jump ahead, I'm in Vancouver last year, and I'm riding down the escalator and the hand on my back, and it's my friend from Bangkok from all those years ago. Now, I've seen him in the interim, so this wasn't the only time I saw him. Now, who is he now? He's the president of the Vancouver Yacht Club. He was the chairman of the British Columbia Vancouver Airport Commission that built what is considered to be one of the most beautiful airports in the world. He has several businesses. He's a multi-millionaire. He is one of the most esteemed people in his community. He lives on a yacht on the bay in Vancouver. I mean, he has accomplished extraordinary things, and here he is. And the last time we spoke, I said to him, I'm so proud of what you've accomplished. It's so great. And he said, yes, he said, and looked around like this, he said, especially when you consider where I started from, when you got me out of that jail in Bangkok. I could still be in a Bangkok jail. He said, if you hadn't gotten me out. So what I'm saying is that the ability to sell can transform your life. And what he did is he just used those skills and he multiplied them and he hired other people and he taught other people. And now he's just one of the most successful people could have, and a great guy, just a great guy. And I always think of that, wow. And every time I see him, and I see him about every couple of years, we just smile. We got this sort of intimate bond. We smile and laugh because I would never in 1,000 years ever tell anybody where he came from because he's one of the most prestigious members of the community. And if they knew, it might get into the papers anyway. So here we say your ability to sell your product or service and to get payment is the key to your business future. And many people say, well, I'm not very good at selling, and I don't like prospecting, and people reject me, and I'm not good at closing, and I don't want to be pushy, and shut up. The very best salespeople who work for the best companies, who make millions of dollars of sales a year, are some of the nicest, warmest, friendliest, likable people you'll ever meet. Remember I talked to you about my seminar on maximum achievement. Every salesperson who goes through that doubles and triples their sales because they transform their personality. And by transforming their personality, they transform the interaction with the client, and they make sales almost effortlessly. They say, never made so much sales, never made so much money in my life, and I'm not even working at it anymore because they transform from the inside. And what they do is they become completely positive, optimistic, cheerful, high-esteemed people. They like their customers. The customers like them right back. So don't get over this idea that selling is something where you manipulate people and you are hard-charging like a used car salesman and so on. No. The very best professionals are the nicest damn people you'll meet. And you meet them and you talk to them and they ask you questions about what you're doing. You think, whatever this guy's selling, I want it. They want to buy from you before they even know what you're selling. Does anybody know what I'm talking about here? So remember, one of the things that we teach is that one of the greatest obstacles to success is what we call self-limiting beliefs. You have a belief that's simply not true, but you believe it and it becomes true for you. And one of the beliefs is that you can't sell, or one of the beliefs that selling is nice, or one of the beliefs that selling is aggressive or manipulative. No, selling is merely persuading and communicating. Daniel Goleman, who wrote Emotional IQ, was asked sometimes later, after the book was a huge seller, what's the most important part of emotional IQ? What is the most important expression of a truly self-actualized personality? And you know what his answer was? He was asked, and he thought, and he went back and forth, and he said it is the ability to persuade. Either you are persuasive or you are persuaded. Either you have the ability to persuade others, very professional, low-key way, whether it's your kids or your spouse or your clients or your customers or your boss or your friends or your bankers, or you are persuaded by them. You are either active and you're an agent that brings about changes in people's behavior that's favorable to you, or you basically accept whatever life gives you. And so persuasiveness, the ability to persuade others, which is a big subject. We could do a 3-day seminar just on persuasion because it involves meeting, negotiating, personality development, learning about the other person, asking good questions. I mean, it's a great thing, but persuasiveness just means you can sell. And you can learn how to be persuasive just by learning how. So this is number one. And if you don't have this, then it's impossible for you to be successful. I told you about my son, Michael. He came to me about 3 or 4 years ago, and he'd just gotten out of college, and he said, Dad, he said, I want to be successful in life. What can I do? And he'd been out and he'd applied for a couple of sales jobs, and they turned him down. I said, well, if you really want to be successful, do what I did when I was your age, is get a job in cold calling, straight cold calling, straight commission selling. It's the hardest, it's the most awful work that you'll ever do. You'll get more rejections and negativity from more people than you ever dreamed of in your life. But if you can get through that and be successful at cold calling, you will own the future. You will be able to do anything for the rest of your life. And he took 1 solid year. We talked about that. For 1 year, he hammered on doors 14 hours a day, 7 days, 6 days a week. He just worked and worked and worked and worked and worked, and he finally became better and better and more positive. Now you could shoot him with a bullet. You can't stop the kid. I mean, he said, Dad, he said, I will always be successful because I'm not afraid of anything. I can sell, and I'm not afraid of anything. And he will just get on the phone. He was working in my company, and we had this new idea. He said, well, let me just check it out. He went out and made 30 cold calls on offices within walking distance and asked them about this business. Came back and said, just made 30 cold calls. 30 cold calls? How many did you make last year? You know, because he's not afraid of anything. So selling is really important. It's not something you have to do. It's not something on the side and you get to it when you, no, it's something that's really important. So we say this, the number one reason for business success is high sales. And this is in any economy. If you can sell well, you can weather any economy. Number one reason for business failure is low sales. This is based on a McKinsey and Company study where they studied IBM when it got into serious trouble, and the problem was low sales. And they said, what's the solution? The solution is high sales. And if you have high sales, it's like a high water line. You could go over any rock in the economic waters. If you have low sales, you can have the finest product in the world. Not a damn thing will happen to you. Nothing happens until a sale takes place. Nothing happens until a sale takes place. What is the job of the entrepreneur? It's to get customers. What is the job? It's to get customers. Your job is, what do? I get customers. What do? I ask them for their money. I get in front of people and ask them for their money. Give me your money. Give me your money. And I use every persuasive reason, every device, every argument possible, every good product, service, presentation. But the bottom line is give me your money. And if they give you your money, you can have a wonderful life. But if they don't give you your money, then somebody's going to keep the money and you're going to worry about it. Does anybody know about worrying about money all the time? I know nobody here worries about money because you're all rich and famous. But there are people out there who worry about money. And why? It's because they don't ask people for money often enough. And so you get up in the morning and here's the rule. You have not worked until you've asked somebody for money. You are not working when you're on your computer. You're not working when you are organizing your business cards. You're not working when you're having coffee. You're not working when you're chatting with your coworkers. You're only working when you ask people for money. One of the things we teach salespeople, which changes their lives, is plan your first opportunity to ask for money as early as possible. Make your first appointment at 8 o'clock in the morning. And at the end of the sales conversation, ask them for the money. Give me the money. You know, where's the money? Where's the beef? Ask for the money. And if you can ask for money first thing in the morning, you'll be asking for money all day long. You know what the average first sales call in America on a customer is made at 11 a.m. Last sales call is made at 3:30. In between, it's warming up and warming down and going for lunch and having coffee and just playing on that computer. Oh, I'm doing so much good stuff here on the computer. Yeah, I don't see the cash register. I don't hear the cash register going jing, jing, jing. No. The only time you're working is when you're asking for money. I see a lot of people looking at me with very glum faces. The fact is every entrepreneur wakes up unemployed every morning and is unemployed until they get face-to-face with a customer and ask them for their money. And so everything else is secondary. The rule is the 80-20 rule. You should spend 80% of your time asking for money and only 20% of your time doing detail work. Well, when do you do your computer work? Before the time that customers are available and after the time that customers are available. Do it before 8 o'clock in the morning, do it after 6 o'clock. There's a friend of mine named Stephanie Winston who just wrote a book last year. It's called, she's a great time management expert. It said, don't check your email in the morning. That's the name of the book. When you say that to people, don't check your email in the morning, they go, it's almost like taking them off of a drug. I mean, don't check my email. I check my email all day long. While I'm sitting here listening to you, I'm checking my email on my BlackBerry. Somebody might send me some spam, and I don't want to miss it. Oh, I love spam. Oh, there's people telling me I have terrible sexual problems, and I get some of this. It'll solve it. Oh my, is that physically possible to do that? I read this article in Fortune. It said, I was amazed at how many people have taken a personal interest in my sexual deficiencies and are sending me all of these wonderful cures for my sexual deficiencies. And anybody who has email knows what I'm talking about. Anyway, and they're sitting there reading this in detail, and while the customers are going past. Customers going past like boats on a river, and they're sitting there reading their spam. So don't check your email in the morning. I have a friend who's a multi-millionaire, started with nothing, and he's a multi-millionaire today, and he writes a note, and he said, don't be offended if I don't get back to you. I check my email twice a day at 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. He said, and I reply once a week. That's it. And he's worth jillions. I mean, he's worth millions of dollars, and he's highly respected. He started off with nothing. I know because I knew him when he had nothing. But he's just very efficient. I check it twice a day. What I'm saying, because if you're checking your email, what are you not doing? You're not selling. You're not asking people for money. So we ask people for money, and the more people you ask for money, the more likely it is that somebody will give you their money. And the more people you ask for money, the better you get at asking for money. And pretty soon you are very relaxed, friendly, happy, cheerful, no fear of rejection at all. You just ask people for money all the time. Hi, what you doing? Can I have your money? So, number 4 is your primary job is to create and keep a customer. This is what you think about 80% of the time. People say, when am I going to do all my paperwork? Before customers are available to be seen and after customers have gone home. But when customers are available to be seen, all you do is get face-to-face or ear-to-ear or email-to-email. All you do is think about customers all the time. Customers make everything possible. Without customers, nothing is possible. So, a great sales process consistently converts prospects into customers. Remember, marketing is getting people to say, yes, I am interested in the product or service that you have. Remember, the basic rule of marketing is we do not seek people and convince them that they need our product or service. We seek people who already need and want and can use and pay for our product or service and get them to buy ours rather than that of our competitors. Okay? So if a person says, for example, one of the examples I use is, I have Excedrin here. I have this little bottle of Excedrin. Excedrin, if you ever have a splitting headache, one of those splitting headaches like a knife blade, 2 Excedrin will knock it out. It's the greatest headache remedy in the world. It's 2 Excedrin. I don't know what it is about Excedrin. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Excedrin is your best friend if you have a splitting headache. Advil is helpful, Aleve is helpful, Excedrin is your friend. So if I say, if you've got a splitting headache, I have the most fantastic remedy. Take 2 of these and it'll be gone. You should take 2 Excedrin. You say, well, I don't have a headache. Well, but you might have. You should have it. No, but I don't have a headache. Why would I want your Excedrin if I don't have a headache? Well, no. If people get headaches, you should have it standing by. And the point of the matter is that if a person doesn't have a headache, you could have the finest remedy in the world, and it's no damn good. If they don't need it, if they don't want it, if they don't have a pressing desire for it, then move on. Say, well, thank you very much. Have a great day. Move on to the next person. Remember, the only time that we try to sell to a person is when it's clear that the person wants it and needs it and can use it and can benefit from it. So we say a great sales process creates a great buying experience. In other words, people are happy afterwards. As a result of the buying experience, they feel happy. They walk away. They don't think, oh, geez, have I made a terrible decision? Buyer's remorse. Oh, my God, what if how can I get out of that? In other words, they're happy because you sold them well. In fact, they're so eager to use your product or service, they just want to get started. It sets the stage for resales because you build a relationship. And it's interesting, professional salespeople, when they're dealing with a prospect for the first time, think about the second and the third sale. They think about the second and the third sale. One of the things I often ask salespeople, I say, what is the most important sale in your interaction with your customer? What's the most important sale? And they say, first sale, I've got to make the first sale. Well, yes, but you can make the first sale through deceit, through lies, through discounting, through misinformation. You can make the first sale through a variety of ways. So what is the most important sale? It's the second sale, because the second sale is when the customer tells you, you did You did fulfill your promises. You did do what you said you would do. Your product did what you said it would do when I bought it the first time. And my stamp of approval is I'm buying it again and again and again. So when you're dealing with a customer for the first time, always think of dealing with them for the second time and the third time, and that dramatically changes the way you deal with them the first time. It's a mental set. Think of this customer as a lifelong customer when they haven't even bought from you at all. And the way you treat them will be considerably different than if you were just thinking of them as a single sale. So number 4 is generate recommendations and referrals. A good sales process will make the customer so happy that they will want their friends to experience the sales process as well. They want their friends to buy your product or service as well. And we will talk about this extensively when we talk about create a great customer experience. So the 7 steps in the selling process. Number 1 is prospecting, is finding qualified people to talk to and making appointments with them. This is really important, and this is the hardest part, but it's the kickoff of the game, and it is a learnable skill. Your job is to get to the point where you have so many prospects that you just can't prospect anymore because you don't have enough time to see any more people. All top salespeople eventually get to that point where they're so swamped with prospects they just can't prospect anymore. Spend 80% of your time prospecting until you're so busy you can't do it anymore. You just don't have you can't fit it into your calendar. 80% of your time when you start off a new business or a new career should be in prospecting, not anything else. Number 2 is establishing rapport and trust. So what you do is once you have found a person who can and will buy your product or service, we say separate prospects from suspects. Don't spend your life building intimate relationships with suspects, people who cannot or will not buy from you. Is once you have found a person who actually seems to need it, they've got a splitting headache, then take some time to get to know them, ask them questions, almost like you're courting a prospect, building a relationship with them so that they like you and they trust you and they're willing to open up to you. Number 3 is identifying needs accurately by asking good questions. Is ask really good questions to make sure exactly what this prospect has. One of the models that I teach, and I'm not going to teach you sales today, I'm going to teach you what you need to know in sales, and then I'm going to refer you to the programs that you can watch. One of the things I say is think of yourself as a doctor of sales. Now, a doctor of sales, if we imagine a doctor, anywhere in the world where you go to a doctor, the doctor will take you through 3 processes. All doctors do the same thing. All doctors of all kinds go through 3 steps. And what is step number 1? It's the examination. The examination. They examine you. They ask you a lot of questions. If you went to a doctor and said, "Hi, doctor, I thank you for the appointment. I'm glad to be here." And the doctor said, "Here, take these pills." You'd say, "Well, wait a minute. Don't you want to know anything about my condition? Don't you want to examine me, take heart rate, blood pressure, anything else?" Nah, I'm an internist. People come to me with stomach problems all the time. Take these pills. What happens to salespeople? They go in and they say, "Hi, I'm Brian Tracy. Here's my product. Take my pill." Well, don't you even want to learn anything about me or my situation? Nah, I'm just trying to sell my stuff. So, no. So what you do is you do an examination. Now, at the second part, after you've done the examination, you get the test back from the lab and everything else. What's stage 2 in the medical process? It's the diagnosis. And if you find with a good doctor, the good doctor will explain to you that based on the examination, this is what it seems that you have a need. And they'll discuss it with you. They won't just tell you, they will discuss it with you based pros and cons. It seems like the very best choice for you now would be these little blue pills. But they discuss it with you and explain to you how they came to this conclusion. And then what is the third part? The prescription. The prescription or the treatment. Now, from now on, for the rest of your business life, I want you to see yourself as a doctor of sales. Now, if you go to a leading university and you complete a doctorate degree, then you can go on the stage and they give you a diploma. Well, if you are knighted by the Queen of England and given a title, they have you kneel, and then what do? They tap you on either shoulder and say, "Arise, Sir so-and-so," or "Lady so-and-so." Well, I just happen to have a magic pen here. And so I am going to give you a combined doctorate and lady lordship. And from this moment onward, I hereby dub you doctors of selling. You're a doctor from now on. From now on, you behave like a doctor, carry yourself as a doctor, think of yourself as a doctor. And when you deal with your patients, like clients, you deal with them as a doctor would. You ask good questions. The only difference between you and a true doctor is that you make house calls. Right? And the wonderful thing is, this is self-image modification. Again, it's one of the most important things you learn, is you see yourself as a doctor, you will dress better, you'll be better prepared, you'll be more punctual, you'll be more thoughtful, you'll be more sensitive and attentive to the needs of the customer, you'll ask better questions and listen more closely, you'll be focused, as a doctor does with a code of ethics, on doing no harm, you'll be focused on helping your patient as much as you can, and not doing anything that is not helpful to the patient. By seeing yourself as a doctor, you'll put yourself into the top 10% of business professionals. Because why? It's because all top people are seen that way, because that's the way they treat their customers. Are you with me so far? So from now on, you're all doctors, all right? And you do an examination, a diagnosis, and a prescription. Person says, well, what have you got? Tell me your product. They're in a hurry. You say, well, I don't even know if what I have may be helpful to you, but I would know if I could ask you a couple of questions. For example, what are you doing now in this area, and how is that working? In other words, you ask a series of questions. Every doctor has a series of pre-programmed questions, and they ask the questions in sequence from the logical to the particular. This is what starts off the whole sales process in a positive way. And this is all available to you. Okay, presenting persuasively is showing the person that your solution is the ideal for them at this time. And why? Here's the pros and cons, and all things considered, this is why. Number 5 is answering objections effectively. Because everyone has objections. What about this? What about that? Can I get it cheaper? Do I need to do this now? And so on. Closing the sale, consistently asking for the order. Just asking them to make a decision. And there's 7 really good ways. There's probably 50, but I teach 7 really good ways. And in my books, I teach dozens of ways of closing the sale. The wonderful thing is that the more ways you have to ask for the order, the easier it is for you to ask, because you just pick a tool out of your toolbox and say, well, this would be the best way to ask for this order. I told you earlier about this young guy who increased his income 500% in 1 year with one closing technique. That one technique changed his whole life, and he just asked it. Every single person he spoke to, at the end of the conversation, he would lay that technique on the table. And his sales just exploded. He said it was unbelievable. He's one of the happiest guys you ever met. He never made so much money, never dreamed he would make that kind of money, because he learned how to ask for the money, okay? And number 7 is getting resales and referrals. So those are the 7 big parts of selling. And what I want you to do now is I want you to turn to page 163, and I want you to give yourself a grade of 1 to 10 in each of these 7 areas. And I want you to be honest, okay? Be honest with yourself. Remember, the only way that you can improve is by honestly identifying the areas where improvement is necessary. So give yourself a grade and be tough on yourself, all right? So prospecting, give yourself a grade of 1 to 10. I develop a steady stream of qualified prospects, so I always have more people to see than I have time. Give yourself a grade of 1 to 10. Number 2, I'll give yourself a second. It doesn't take long to fill in your grade. Probably your numbers really close to the word grade. Hardly have to move your pen, you just go right down the page on the left-hand side. Okay. Number 2 is building rapport and trust. I quickly and easily build excellent relationships with my prospects. Here is why, by the way, and I'm not selling this, but here's why the Maximum Achievement course works, is we show you how to build your self-esteem to very high levels so you really like and respect yourself. And we found that the more you like yourself, the more you like others, and the more you like others, the more they like you right back and want to buy from you. So by changing nothing in terms of skills, but just changing how you feel about yourself, you automatically change the quality of your relationship with your customers. So give yourself a grade, building rapport and trust. You get along really well with customers. Number 3, need or problem identification. I ask excellent questions, and I should say pre-prepared questions, that enable me to identify the true needs of my prospects before I ever start talking about my product. Give yourself a grade of how good you are at this examination process. Number 4 is presentation skills. I present my product or service clearly so that my prospect quickly realizes that what I sell is the ideal product or service for him or her. In other words, you have a great presentation. At the end of the presentation, people say, "Oh, wow, geez, I want that. How soon can I get it? I mean, we do take cash." They love it because your presentation is so persuasive. I work with sales organizations that have spent years developing a presentation, and we say that a great sales presentation is developed by geniuses and can thereafter be used by morons. And their sales presentation is so effective. I've watched them do this. They can walk cold call. They can knock on a house door and cold call from the opening sentence. Within 3 sentences, they've got the customer interested, and we'll ask them one more question, which gets them inside, and they are guaranteed a sale 9 out of 10 times. And they take people, I've worked with them, people that, I mean, the 3rd grade educations, I mean, they drag their knuckles along the ground, and they teach them this sales presentation, and these guys make $50,000, $100,000, $150,000 a year, because they talk to a person, and they say these words. The words are so effective, the people grabbing the product out of their hand in 7 questions. And I watch them, and you can't believe it. The presentation is so effective, you want to buy it from them. You want to buy the product, and you're just there to listen. So you can develop a good presentation that really works. Give yourself a grade of answering objections. I have well-developed answers and responses to most customer objections, which means you've thought them through, and you know what they may object to, and you've got an answer all prepared. Number 6, closing the sale. I close each sale smoothly and in a timely fashion, which means you have a series of methods that you can use for sales closing, and you know exactly which one to use, and you use it professionally and smoothly. Interesting about closing the sale. Closing the sale is one of your jobs, and it must be done smoothly. And I remember the story of this old guy, and he calls his dentist, and he says, Bill, he said, I haven't seen you for quite a while, but I got a really bad tooth. It's got to have it taken out. And he said, well, Sam, he said, I haven't seen you for a while. Why don't you come on in? He said, well, Bill, just a second. He said, how much do you charge to pull a tooth? And he said, well, we charge about $80. He says, well, $80, well, how long does it take? He said, well, it just takes a couple of seconds. He said, well, $80 seems to be an awful lot of money for a couple of seconds work. He said, well, now, Bill, he said, if it's the time you're concerned with, I can take all the time you want. When you close a sale, you want to do it quickly and smoothly, so it's over and done. And that is your job. At the end of the conversation, just close the sale and get on with the rest. And finally, the last part of selling is resales and referrals. I get a steady stream of repeat sales and referrals from my customers. Now fill out your strongest area and your weakest area. Where did you give yourself the highest grade? Page 164. Where did you give yourself the lowest grade? This is really important, because the way you grade yourself here is going to have a major impact on your future. Now here's our discovery. If a bunch of kids goes for a walk, which one kid sets the speed at which all the other kids have to walk? The slowest kid. Your weakest key skill in sales is your slowest kid. Your weakest key skill sets the height of your income. It determines the quality of your life, the home you live in, your bank account, your car, your vacations, and what you order when you go out for dinner and where you go out for dinner. Your weakest key skill is the sea anchor that holds you back. It's always the case that your weakest key skill is the ceiling that determines your income. So bringing yourself up in your weakest key skill will have a greater impact on your overall financial results than any other thing that you can do. And your weakest key skill is almost always something you don't like. It's something you're not comfortable with, something you don't do that well, and it's because you're not good at it when? You're not good at it yet, because it's a learnable skill. Every single person who is excellent at any skill in sales was at one time terrible. My friend Harv Eker says every master was once a disaster. Every person who starts off is terrible at it, and then they just put their head down through deliberate practice until they master the skill, and then they put the skill into their quiver like another arrow and go on to the next skill. So therefore, whatever skill you've identified as your weakest skill, that's where you go to work and bring that skill up so you can use all of your other skills at a higher level. Now some people say, well, you should only do what you love to do and only do what you really feel good about doing. No, there are some things that you have to learn to do well in order to be able to do all the other things that you love to do. One of the things you have to do as an independent business owner is you must become good at selling. Just like if you're going to have a home, you must learn how to cook. If you're going to type, you have to learn how to use a keyboard. If you're going to use a computer, you have to learn how to use computer programs. There's lots of things that you may not love to do, but you have to do them so you can do all those other things. And fortunately, they're learnable skills. Once you learn them, you own them, you've got them for the rest of your life. Once you become an excellent salesperson, you can sell well and sell lots forever. So this brings us to, I'm going to ask you, just turn to the person at your table and tell them your weakest skill in selling and the one thing that you're going to do to start bringing yourself up on that skill. It's going to be a short exercise, but just tell the person next to you your weakest skill and what action you're going to take to bring yourself up. Okay. Shh. Congratulations. What you've done is really quite remarkable. One of the major reasons is for us not growing is we don't want to face the fact that we're weak in a particular area. But what you've done now is you've identified where you're strong, which is good, but you've also identified where you're weak, and you've told one other person or the people at your table about it. Now the only question is, how do you become excellent in that area? And the way you do it is you simply say at the top of the page, I am absolutely excellent in this area. And then you write down 20 things that you could do to become excellent in that area, knowing that if you become excellent in your weakest skill area, it may by itself double your income in the next 12 months, which is a really wonderful thought. And so what you do is you say, all right, what could I do to become excellent in this particular skill? I could learn this, and I could read this, and I could practice this, and I could watch the video. I could fulfill the exercises, and I could take action every single day, and I could get advice from here. And the answers that you'll come up with, you'll be amazed, and you'll end up with a structure, and you set priorities on it, and then you take the first step. Monday morning, you start working on becoming better in that skill. And don't expect to become better in a week or 10 days. Give yourself 3 months, 6 months, maybe a year. If it's an important enough skill, it's worthwhile working for a whole darn year. Because when you master that skill, the impact it can have on everything else, like ripples in your career, is quite astonishing. I've had people who've just mastered the skill of asking for the order, and their whole life has changed by hundreds of %. Just think if you could close every second person you spoke to, every 2 out of 3 people, every 4 out of 5, which, by the way, are achievable numbers. Imagine you could close 4 to 5 people you spoke to would buy from you. What would that do to your life, your income, your business? And the fact is, it's a learnable skill. You can do it. If I said, I can teach you to drive a truck, I can teach you to drive a truck, and you can drive a truck all the way to Los Angeles. I could teach you to drive a truck. You'd say, well, of course. If I can drive a car, I can drive a truck. It's just a little bit bigger. You wouldn't have any doubt at all, would you? Sure, I can drive a truck. I can even show you how to drive a tractor, show you how to fly a plane. They're all learnable skills. Show you how to close a sale. Oh, my God. I mean, it's as simple as driving a truck or a tractor. Yeah, it's a learnable skill. And once you learn it, you get better and better at it. You get better and better results. Are you with me so far? Never let yourself be held back because you're lacking a skill. Because the skill it's there. It's there. Just pick it up. Just pick it. All right. So now our next exercise is sales is the heartbeat of your business, the oxygen to the brain of your financial future. Isn't that great? That's my own literature. If I could put that to make it rhyme, I could get a great poem. Okay. Hey, I get Eminem to do it. 14, the heartbeat of your business, oxygen to the brain of your financial future. All right. So. I don't know what I was smoking last night, but fortunately, all sales skills are learnable with instruction, practice, and repetition. So prospecting, here's the question you're going to ask. Who are the ideal customers? Well, we say the perfect customers for what you sell. If you could just cherry pick customers, who are the ones who would buy the fastest and buy the most? Number 2 is a good prospect has 4 qualities. What are they for your best prospect? Now, this is really important. They have a problem that's unsolved, and what would be the problem? They have a need that's unsatisfied. What would be the need? They have a goal that is unachieved. How could your product or service help them achieve that goal? They have a pain to be taken away. What's causing them worry or stress today that you can take away with your product or service? Number 3, trust and credibility are the heart of the sale. What do you do to build trust with your prospects? Number 4, identifying needs accurately. What specific needs, wants of your ideal customer does your product or service satisfy? And remember, customers buy because it satisfies one major need. What is the one major need? If you could say, Just give me one reason to buy your product, one thing that your product or service will do for me, and you had to pick from all the things your product or service will do, what's the one that's the most important, the most helpful, the most impactful, the most emotionally involving? This is really important, because other than that, you'd just be like a drunk, lurching from lamppost to lamppost in your sales presentation. Number 5, what's the most pressing important need? Number 6, presenting persuasively. What are the 3 most important elements in persuading a prospect to buy from you? Okay, I will give you a hint. What is the most important single word in selling? The word that determines how much you sell, how fast you sell, how often you sell, how many times they buy from you, how many times they buy from you again, how many times they recommend you to others, the amount of money that you earn, the house you live in, the car you drive, the amount of money in your bank account, and your entire financial future. What's the one word? The answer is credibility. Credibility in business is everything. Credibility means I believe you. Credibility means I feel I can trust you. Credibility is everything. And everything you do in a sales conversation either raises or lowers your credibility. It causes people to trust you more or less. You're punctual for the appointment, your credibility goes up. You're late, your credibility goes down. You've prepared thoroughly, and it's clear that you've prepared, credibility goes up. You haven't prepared and you're asking dumb questions like, what business are you in? Because you haven't done any preparation, credibility goes down. You're dressed properly, credibility goes up. You're dressed poorly, credibility goes down. Everything counts, everything counts. And credibility, how long your company has been in business, and the number of customers you have, and the number of repeat customers you have, all credibility. So it's really important to think of how can you build credibility. That's just a hint to how to answer that question. Number 7, answering objections effectively. What are the most common objections you get? And number 8, why don't qualified prospects buy your product? I mean, they want it, they need it, they can afford it, they've got the money. Why don't they buy from you? Oh, this is number 9. Whew, hate this one. Why do prospects buy from your competitors? Those awful human beings. Now, I'm going to give you another rule that is so important, is that always admire your successful competitors. Always admire your successful competition. The natural tendency of the little person in business is to sneer at and criticize, condemn their competition who are doing better than they are. And everybody does it at the beginning because we feel these people are actually, depriving us of income, revenue, and so on. But as you mature and you become smarter, you start to admire your competition. And if they're doing something that's getting customers, you say, what is it that they're doing? And if you speak to it, somebody who bought from your competition rather than from you, you say, that company, always speak well of your competitors. You say, that's a good company. Tell me, why did you decide to buy from them rather than from anyone else? Why would you decide to choose them? And listen to what your customers tell you. And they'll tell you what you need to do to win them next time. And so the very best salespeople are always admiring their successful. They look at their competitors. They look at their ads. Sometimes they meet with them. And they ask them, what is it that you do that enables you to be so successful? And they look at their offerings and look how their offerings compare with theirs. And so when you admire your successful competitors, you set up a force field of energy that starts to attract ideas and insights into your life that enable you to sell like your successful competitors. So always admire them. Never say a negative word. If your customer says, what about your competitor here? You always say, they're a good company, fine company, wonderful people. We take a slightly different approach than they do. That's all you say. We take a slightly different approach to our customers than they do, but they're a good company. Never criticize a competitor. Very important. Learn from them. They'll teach you how to get rich. Your successful competitors will make you rich if you learn from them. Number 10, what must a prospect be convinced of to buy your product from you? Usually it's only one thing, but try for 3. People buy only one thing, improvement. So what specifically does your product or service do to improve the life or work of your customer? Number 12, and this is really important, improve. Number 12, closing the sale. What are the 3 best methods that you use to get the prospect to take action or to buy from you? In other words, what 3 closing questions do you use most of the time? Number 13, resales. What 3 things can you do before and after the sale to get the customer to buy from you again? Number 14, what are 3 ways to follow through after the sale to assure customer satisfaction? Very important. And one action are you going to take immediately to create a great sales process? How will you measure success, and what is your expected date of completion of this action? Please begin. This is really a great exercise, and I was thinking as I was walking around, I wonder if I should put together a 2.5-day boot camp just on selling. Yeah, just bring us in and go through it and really teach every single one of these in depth, plus negotiating, plus interpersonal skills, plus some other things, plus body language and so on. How many people would be interested in something like that? All right, well, I'm going to think about that because I've done this in the past. I just haven't thought of doing it for you. But now that you're interested, I'll put it together and I'll send you out some information. That's a great idea. Jeez. Now, you have here something that I designed for my clients. It's called the Sales Improvement Process, and I'm not going to put you through it, but this Sales Improvement Process is a fantastic document. What it does is it says that sales and revenue and cash flow are essential to a business, and there's 4 ways to increase sales: to make more individual sales, to make larger sales to each customer, to increase the frequency of purchases from each customer, or to do or offer something completely different. But the goal is to increase sales revenues and cash flow. So increase your sales revenue and cash flow, you must accurately identify the correct reason why you're not selling enough at the present. You must accurately identify the correct reason, because if you settle on the wrong reason, it'll take you off the reservation, and you'll solve the wrong problem, and you still will not have increased your sales revenues and cash flow. So here's the great thinking tool, and this comes from years and years of research. It's the question, what else could be the reason? Natural tendency for human beings is to jump to conclusions. Is we leap to a conclusion, we say, well, the reason is we don't have enough sales. Well, what's the reason for that? Well, we're not doing enough advertising, so let's just do some advertising. Or our prices are too, so I'll just cut the prices. Or our competitors are selling too much. Well, then let's position ourselves more definitely against our competitors. But what you do, because what's the most powerful tool you have, the most powerful skill? Thinking, is you ask these questions, and you say, so all right, the additional definition of the problem is my sales are not high enough, because each definition of the problem suggests a different solution. So possible reasons for this problem: we do not have enough customers. Okay, so I mean, what do we have to do? Get more customers. But what else might be the problem? Maybe you do have enough customers, or our customers are not buying enough. Maybe we're attracting enough people, but they're not buying enough. Or we're not converting enough prospects into customers. Could that be the problem? You notice if that, and you keep asking, what else 21 times. It's taken me years to put this together. And each time you do this, you think, could this be the problem? For example, you say, our costs of making each sale are too high. Is this the problem? It could very well be that we're spending $99 to get a $100 sale after you've added all things in. And maybe that's what you have to do. Is maybe with the number of sales you have, you could be highly profitable if you could reduce the cost. Are you with me so far? So each of these is like a provocation, like a cattle prod that forces you to think, if this were the answer, then this would require a different strategy. So don't leap to the first possible answer, because it may be number 20. The market has fundamentally changed and the demand for our product has declined permanently, like the Sony Walkman. And that's a very hard thing to accept. The demand for our product has declined permanently. Then that means that we're going to have new products, new services, new markets, and so on. So hold your feet to the fire and then fill out the rest of these exercises. Ask yourself the following questions and so on. And remember, business growth strategies, high performance selling, the 30 lessons. This is so important. If you can get this down, then you can write your own ticket for the rest of your career.